The Leap Foundation proudly presents the Meet the Mentor podcast with Dr. Bill Dorfman. Dr. Bill is a TV host, New York Times best-selling author, two-time Guinness World Book record holder, fitness guru, celebrity cosmetic dentist, and philanthropist who founded the Leap Foundation. Here's Dr. Bill.
Hey everybody, Dr. Bill here, and we're about to do another great Meet the Mentor podcast. Why are we doing this? Well, for those of you who are not familiar with our LEAP Foundation, LEAP is a motivational leadership program that we do every summer for high school and college students age 15 to 25. The next program is going to be again at UCLA. It will be July 18th to the 24th. Hopefully there will be a live component to it. We're thinking, typically we get about 450 students. We're thinking probably this year we'll get about 50 students live, spaced out, hopefully vaccinated and all that. If not, it will be all virtual like we did last year. And last year we killed it virtually. I mean, we let it off with Jason Alexander speaking from Seinfeld. Paula Abdul comes every year and she will come again next year. And just amazing speakers. In the past, we've had Mark Wahlberg, Anthony Hopkins, Kathy Bates, Eva Longoria, Paula Abdul, Michael Strahan, Jason Alexander, Usher, and a whole host of other amazing speakers. Why? Well, the whole thing is copy genius. If I can get these incredibly successful athletes and politicians and businessmen and women to come and speak to the students, it really gives them a lot of insight as to what they need to do to become successful in life. So LEAP rocks. You can go to our website. It's www.leapfoundation.com to get more information about it. We will definitely have a virtual program. We will most likely have a small in-person component to it, but we're super excited, and we'll just kind of let you know as this thing progresses and what we're limited to with this pandemic. So crazy times that we're living in. Why do we do these Meet the Mentor podcasts? Well, the whole idea is that students come to LEAP, they love the program. Literally the pinnacle of the whole week is that they get to come to this program and meet all these great mentors where they can actually sit at a table with them and ask them questions and whatnot. And so instead of just doing this once a year and kind of losing contact with you guys, what we decided to do is to do these Meet the Mentor podcasts. So on a week by week basis, you'll have an opportunity to get more information and to learn more. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to our mentor for today. His name is Talor Zamir. He is a podcast host, entrepreneur, and the CEO of Peak Performance, which he'll explain to you when we're talking. It's a leader in organic superfood powders, essential organic supplements, protein powder, and organic coffee. In 2013, Talor was racked with an intense, inexplicable pain and inflammation that put his health, his hope, and his family's financial future in danger. What began as a nightmare that he would never wish on his worst enemy became the impetus for a hero's journey. He returned from his quest victorious, having been led to solutions he had been seeking all along and those that he wanted to share with others, which he'll talk about, and that was even more important. How he successfully put out the fire of pain and inflammation is why he created Peak Performance. He now has a new quest to help others transform their health and life in the same way he did through Peak Performance. Talor, great to have you here today. And let's just start at the beginning. Before all of this happened, what were you doing in your life?
Sure. Thank you for having me. Excited to be here. I've been an internet entrepreneur since about 2007. And for the first several years, I was an internet marketing consultant, banging away on a keyboard, bad posture, not really looking at what I was putting in my body, what I was eating. And so, I think in your 20s, you can kind of do that. You can get away with a lot more. But as I started getting in my early 30s, it started to catch up to me, and I ended up getting massive pain and inflammation in my arms to the point where I couldn't type more than a couple sentences on a keyboard without being in massive pain. So I had to use a voice dictation software actually for 2 years just to kind of get by. And, I have a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old daughter. So, it was a very difficult time for me at that time.
Was this a result of any kind of injury, or, I mean, it just kind of spontaneously happened? How did this all start?
I think it's pretty common actually with people who are very driven. If they don't take care of their health and they just want to work, right? So I was very driven. I wanted to make a lot of money. I wanted to be a successful entrepreneur. So, I'm 12 hours a day just sitting on a couch with a laptop, sitting wherever with a laptop, bad posture, and then again, eating lots of sugars and other inflammatory foods that at the time I didn't think it was a big deal. But ended up really catching up with me. So, that was kind of the low point of my life. Had a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old daughter that I was afraid, not knowing how I would provide for them. All I knew how to do was, make money on the internet in terms of internet marketing. But now I was really kind of debilitated with this injury holding me back.
So you get to a fork in the road, and I love that, you kind of did the old, well, if I'm going to get a bunch of lemons, I'll make lemonade, right? I mean, you could have gone into this deep depression and felt sorry for yourself and just kept suffering and suffering and suffering, but you didn't do that. And, maybe you can take us through the steps of what you did. So if there are students listening, and they're in a similar situation or actually see an opportunity, because you made a very successful business out of this horrible tragedy. So let's kind of go back and maybe you can just kind of tell us, like, at what point you really thought, wow, this is not going to end my life. This is going to be a whole new chapter in my life. What did you do?
Yeah, I think at the time, sometimes it's hard to see it when you're in the moment, right? And so I definitely hope people can get some inspiration. If you're feeling in a place that's not great right now, if you're down or you're not feeling great, it's hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel. But if like you said, you can't just stay home and pull the covers over your head and cry about it. You have to get up and do something and take action. And so filling my mind with positive personal development, positive mindset, things like this podcast, that really helped me. And obviously changing what I put in my body really helped me. I had to make a full transformation mentally and physically. But what I say is that what I thought was the worst thing that could ever happen to me actually ended up turning to be the best thing that ever happened to me. And I think that's the case with so many people.
I want to interrupt for a sec. My new mantra, and I heard this on a podcast I did, and I literally embrace it and I love it, is learn so you can earn and then return. The first thing you needed to do in your situation was learn what's going on and how to solve it. So how did you actually do that? Because, you're sitting here with this inexplicable problem of inflammation. You can't type, your arms are swollen all the time. How did you start to gather information and learn about different solutions to solve the problem?
Yeah, well, these days there's a lot of information out there. And at first, I think I got sucked into a lot of, misinformation. But eventually, when I grab things that I learned here, things that I learned there, and then kind of put it all together and came to my own conclusion that inflammation comes from inside of me, right? And so I need to change what I put in my body and how I'm treating my body if I'm going to get a different result. So really, it's just it was a lot of information. In fact, I would say in terms of business and success, one of the biggest things that I would attribute that to in my life is that I'm a learning machine. I can't get enough listening to podcasts and audio books and seminars and masterminds. I love it.
Yeah, and one thing you have to understand too is, one size doesn't fit all. For you, your inflammation was, something that you learned through experiment you could correct with diet. Other people will have inflammation due to, hormonal problems or other inflammatory things. So I think that the very, very first thing anybody has to do is really determine what the source of the problem is. I have some patients that are suffering from CRPS, which was traumatically induced, where somebody's in a small accident and they get this massive inflammatory response to something that you or I would not respond to. So it's really important to differentiate what it's causing. And you were lucky because you were kind of like the lab rat. I mean, you knew you had the problem. You started trying different kinds of supplements and diets and whatnot, and you could directly see on yourself what was working and what wasn't working.
Absolutely.
And once you did, you were smart enough to say, hey, there are other people suffering from this who could benefit from what I'm learning. And you started peak performance with all these supplements and all kinds of things. And I'd like to hear how that journey all, kind of materialized.
Absolutely. There was a lot of trial and error. And I think that as an entrepreneur, as someone in business, there's a lot of trial and error, both for me and my health, as well as in business and anything that you're trying to accomplish. And so through a lot of trial and error, I learned what worked and what didn't work. And now when I look back at it, it's, kind of pretty obvious that when you fill your body with organic green superfoods and really high quality foods and things that are not inflammatory, like sugar and fried foods and things of that nature that are very inflammatory, when you can eliminate those and fill your body with really good things, not only did my body start becoming less inflamed, but I got more mental and physical energy. And so that's where the name peak performance comes from, performing mentally and physically at your peak. And so I said, there's a great saying called turn your mess into your message. Right. And so that's a really powerful thing. So I was like, hey, this was my mess. I turned it around. There are millions of other people suffering from things like this. I can inspire them and transform them and help them as well.
Okay. So let's go back to the beginning of that. So, in my old mantra, learn so you can earn. So you learned, you did the research, you basically experimented on yourself, and probably I'm sure you had friends and things like that. Now you have, this idea that I can develop a product line, so then what happens?
Right. So I started with you have to start somewhere. You can't, a lot of times people try to jump to the big picture. And, now we have almost 90 products with peak performance, but we started with the most important one for me, which at the time was the organic green superfood powder. I was also drinking coffee every day, and I started reading about the importance of drinking organic coffee because coffee is heavily sprayed with pesticides if it's not organic. So those were a couple things. Then it was organic red superfoods, organic plant proteins. But I started one product at a time. And how did I learn about that? I was on a big health journey already, listening to every podcast, reading all the health books, going to different events. And then I would go to all the health related shows where all the manufacturers and the suppliers and the different ingredient suppliers were. So I learned a lot. Again, learning. It wasn't overnight. It took some time.
Okay. So you came up with, let's say, these first two products, which was the powder and the coffee. Then what? Like, how do you actually start a business with that?
So my background in internet marketing was very useful for me, obviously, right? So I think being a consultant, actually, for me, it was an internet marketing consultant. It's a great profession because you get to learn. I hate to say this like in this way, but you get to learn on other people's dime, right? If someone is paying you to manage their marketing, you learn a lot and you're not the one paying for the ad spend. Now, of course, in order for them to pay you, you have to develop an expertise. You have to develop a skill set. For me, that started with Google advertising back in 2007. I was one of the first people, kind of, not one of the first, but really early in the game on Google advertising, learned that. So there was a culmination of things that I learned that helped kind of give me some background experience on how to launch a brand and do internet marketing.
So basically, once you had these two products that you felt really comfortable with, your only marketing was through the internet and from the experience that you had doing that, right?
Yep.
Did you then go out and like try to get influencers, or like, tell me what your initial marketing campaign consisted of?
Sure. So we actually launched the brand on Amazon. So I was learning a lot about Amazon, and Amazon was really starting to get bigger around this time. This is probably 5-6 years ago. So and a lot of third-party sellers started selling on Amazon. So Amazon had an advertising system that was very similar, still is very similar to Google's advertising system. So I was able to leverage my knowledge on Google advertising to launch the brand on Amazon, where it's a lot about conversion. A lot of things I did in internet marketing were about how do I get a high conversion rate? And on Amazon, when you get a high conversion rate, Amazon rewards you by placing you higher in the rankings because they see you as being more relevant. So by having good images, writing good copy, doing good advertising on Amazon, I was able to get some awareness. Then putting out high quality products is the most important part, because if you don't get good reviews, people know what's going to buy it. So a combination of all that.
So at this point, how big is your company? Is it just you? Do you have a few assistants? Like, kind of give me a little bit of background as to like what you were working with at this point.
Yeah, so we have over a dozen different independent contractors kind of all over the world. So we have a few employees, but mostly we use independent contractors. I've actually been working from home since 2007, so I'm kind of used to this and working with independent contractors all over. But I look for more specialized skills. So graphic designer, I can hire an independent contractor. Advertising specialist here, someone, So yeah, we've been able to double every year. All sales are completely online on our website as well as Amazon.
And first year in business was when?
2016.
2016. So you're going on 5 years now. Would you feel comfortable telling us, how your growth has been?
Sure. Yeah. So we've been pretty much doubling every year since inception. And so last year we did 13 million in sales.
Congratulations. That's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah. I think, again, there's marketing behind it, but it also is very important to be putting out the highest quality product. One thing I really learned from doing consulting was that, you can't sell something that you don't believe in, or you won't do it very well, or you won't do it for very long. You have to believe in it. It has to be a high quality thing, especially these days with all the online reviews. But yeah, we've been able to grow. And as we get more repeat customers every year, we started, in the first year, I can't even remember what we did, but it wasn't much in sales. And as we add more products and get repeat customers, we continue to grow every year.
And with 13 million in gross sales, what was your EBITDA?
I'm not sure I want to share that just right now in case a lot of my competitors are listening, but we're still in a growth phase where I'm a little less concerned about EBITDA and more focused on growth. But yeah, so we've been growing EBITDA as well. And I will say that the first couple of years, first few years, really, I didn't take any money out of the business at all. It was all just reinvested back into the business, which I think is an important thing. If you make a little money and then go spend it all, rather than reinvest it into growing the business, you're going to, stunt the growth of the business.
I love that you say that, because I think that a lot of young entrepreneurs really don't realize that that's a fact. We grew Discus Dental, my tooth whitening company, literally from zero to almost $200 million in sales over a 20-year period. However, the first, 4 or 5 years, we didn't take a penny out of the company. Every single penny we made, we put back into that company. Earlier, we talked about EBITDA. For students that don't know, that's basically your earnings. And so you can have a company that does $100 million in sales, but spends $101 million in sales. Is that a good company? No, you didn't make any money, you lost. But if you invest that properly, at the end of the day, what I did with Discus was we kind of worked backwards. And I knew that once we got to an EBITDA of somewhere north of, say, $20 to $25 million, we could sell that company and exit with a very comfortable exit. So, as you start to grow a business, I always think it's important to think like, what does the end site look like, and I don't know, I mean, you're such a young guy, you have years and years and years that you could do this, but I think that it's kind of cool that you guys are doubling in size every year. What would you attribute the growth to?
Again, high quality products and continuing to reinvest into launching, expanding the product line, doing more advertising. And I will say, in terms of EBITDA, it is a great opportunity starting your own brand, selling on Amazon and online. I would say typically the margins are 10% to up to 35% in some cases. I'm probably on the lower end of that right now because I'm more focused on growth and reinvesting back into the company. But I have friends that are doing, 30% margins. So if they were to do 10 million in sales, that would be 3 million a year in EBITDA off of that. And Amazon really does a lot of the heavy lifting for you in terms of fulfillment and handling returns. So it's actually much easier. Whereas, 50 years ago, even 20, 30 years ago, you had to have a lot of capital to start a new brand, to start a new business. These days with Amazon, I mean, you could start with one product and an opening order of $10,000 and put it on Amazon. And if it gets good reviews and the advertising is profitable or at least break even, you can actually scale and grow that fairly quickly.
That's awesome. I love that. So let me ask you this. You're basically in this growth pattern where you're doubling every year. What's your goal for like what's next with Peak Performance?
Well, we're really about transformation and inspiration, and I'm not really interested in selling the company anytime soon because it's really my passion. I was fortunate enough to sell a previous company that I had built, also a brand that I built on Amazon. So I had some money, and now I started to think about, well, if there's anything I could do, what would it be? And this is my passion brand. This is what I want to do. I couldn't imagine really waking up and wanting to do something else. And so until that day comes where I am not passionate about it anymore, which I don't see that happening anytime soon, I'll continue to do this, continue to reinvest, continue to grow the business. And I think with consumable products where you have a lot of repeat customers, the growth, it can really accelerate over time. And so we're really excited about continuing to build our customers and repeat customers and deliver value to them.
I love that. That's awesome. Thank you so much. If students are interested in you or your company and want to get a hold of you, what's the best way to do that?
The website is buypeakperformance.com. It's BUY, buypeakperformance.com. And if you get on the email list there, I send a lot of tips. It's mostly about health. I don't talk too much about entrepreneurship. It's mostly health related. But if you or anyone in your family member is having any health challenges, I'd highly recommend it. And we have a podcast called the Peak Performance Life podcast as well, where we share lots of tips about health and performing mentally and physically at your peak. These days, I'm kind of considered somewhat of a biohacker that's trying to optimize my mental and physical performance to be the best I can be, because I want to perform great in business and then come home and be a great father to my daughters and have great health and be a great husband to my wife. And so I don't want to just work hard and come home and have no energy. So I think you need to have mental and physical energy for that.
I totally agree. I'm almost 70 years old.
No way. That's amazing.
I'm 62. That's closer to 70
wow,
than 0.
man, you look 30 years younger probably, man. 20 to 30 years
But, you
younger.
know, I mean, I've embraced a very, very active lifestyle. My whole life, I've been an athlete. I've always, worked out. I've always eaten well. And, and I exercise every day. Every day I spend at least an hour doing some physical activity, no matter what. I'm in better shape at 62 today than I was when I was your age, because I have more free time, and I know, I've learned, what works. So if you ever want me on your podcast, I'd be happy to do it for you.
I'd love to have you. Yeah, I'm almost 40. I'm turning 40 next month. So yeah.
You don't even look 20. Anyhow, Talor, thank you so much. And if you have not signed up for LEAP, please do. We will definitely be doing this virtually. Possibly a few spaces will be in person and live, but you can always sign up on the virtual program and then upgrade to the live performance. All right, with that, Dr. Bill, over and out.
To learn more about the LEAP Foundation, go to leapfoundation.com or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/LEAP Foundation or on Instagram at LEAP Foundation. Listen to the Meet the Mentor podcast with Dr. Bill Dorfman on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.